Welcome to last week's review, really. We're going to go through this quickly. There was only one trade, it was a loss. And then I want to just do a bit of analysis on USD Swiss franc, which is looking really, really good for this week. So make sure you just stay tuned till the end of this review, where I'm just going to go through what I'm seeing on that pair. So one trade taken. This was a short position on USD Swiss franc. It met the plan. It was a high risk position. And when the recap of this comes out on the Daily Nugget, you'll see how the position of my stop just wasn't too great on this, given that it carried a bit more risk. I should have placed stops conservatively, and so I think I choked the position a bit. I think regardless, it would have stopped me out either way. But on positions where it's carrying higher risk either because it's not in the greatest of areas or momentum isn't really on your side, you just rather always give it more room to breathe than choke it and get stopped out prematurely. So what did I learn this week? It's just to consider all probable scenarios when forecasting setups, as there can be opportunities both ways in a session. Yeah, I think that was an intention carried over from the previous week, and probably the only reason I got a trade this week. And that stop should be placed conservatively for setups which are high risk or moderately high risk in nature. I think this was really, there's no moderately high risk. It's either high risk or low risk. And I was just trying to convince myself by using that word that it wasn't as high a risk of a setup as it could have been. But at the end of the day, it's either high risk or it's low risk. And I think that the words we use to ourselves contribute to how we behave, during execution. And if you're trying to convince yourself, or if you're using words that you don't normally use, or it's not just plain black and white, then that's maybe a sign to step back or proceed with caution. And so, what is the most important thing I need to work on improving this week? I think managing my emotions when executing positions. If you've been following the daily nuggets on, either YouTube here, Instagram, or TikTok, then you'll know what I mean. So that's very important that I want to work on this coming week, and just managing expectations really. And then what is the most important thing I should continue doing this week? Journaling my mental state each day. That's something I do at the end of the working day. It's literally the last thing I do, which is kind of just a recap of, how did I feel when I woke up? How was my focus during the day? How were my emotions when I was forecasting setups? Was I trade? Did I have FOMO? Did I want to get into a position? Was I hesitant for whatever reason? When I was during execution or management. And it's not long, it's maybe like 4 sentences, but I think that's just really helped me keep track of, how my mental state has been in this period. And over time, as results, fluctuate between good and maybe not so good, then hopefully there's some common themes that I can pick up on there. So briefly coming to USD Swiss franc. Actually, let me just show you this quickly before we get there. Just for the transparency, same start date, login ID, equity down, hovering just below 4% drawdown. So that is that. You guys can see that. Cool. And I just always want to show you guys this so that when we eventually do pass the challenge and we're doing crazy numbers, nobody can say Sam didn't show us every single week that this was the same challenge. Because guys do that. They get tired of showing the same loss, the same drawdown every week, and they think that people are going to lose interest. So, they start fabricating results and challenges and things. So we don't do that here. So yeah, the dollar is in a really, really good place. And we see that already from the weekly. Don't let this candle put you off. Um, and if your bias was bullish last week, I can guarantee you it can remain bullish this week too. Do not let that candle put you off. What I do like about where we are now is one, we've tapped below that 60-day low. And two, we are now trading. If we look at just from an age perspective, um, we're clearly in more of an impulsive phase now. We're coming off the strong bullish movement, and then the correction was always due. So I'm not surprised that we've corrected this aggressively because we were running higher for so long. And if you look at where we've corrected to, you can either look at it from this bullish run here, and you can see we just below that 62% level. So again, in a discounted region, but we knew that already. But from a more precise sort of perspective, if you look at this range here, starting from this low down to that high, we were pretty flat for some time. Obviously impulsive at times within there, but we were really trading within that high time frame range. That can be used as a really good point of reference for where price may return to at a later stage once we break out of it. And so you saw we got the break at this point. And it's kind of, I think this is now we're at the breaking point in that if you set the mean threshold and you see I already had it on, we've literally almost to the pip come to that mean threshold last week of the larger weekly range. And so this is not to say that we're going to get an outright reversal from this point and, start to head up. But I do think some sort of reaction higher is due, whether it's just to test these lows and then continue lower, or to obviously come up higher and retest the highs. But obviously from this point, if we do continue higher and then start to break lower, once we start trading below this mean threshold, then it's likely that this was just a sweep above these highs, and we really are coming down to our next sort of target area or point of interest, or this range low. So I think it's just a really good area that price is in. And you can see over the past couple of days, we've started to decelerate into that order block. And so I'm just going to be watching to see how we react from there. You can see from a daily perspective, this can be clear sort of points of external range liquidity. So we are, in any case, expecting some sort of retracement higher. Just depends on will we bounce or will we break higher to either come deeper within that level and then sell off, or to keep coming high. But this is like talking now over the rest of the month. We're just talking this week where it's highly likely that we will get some sort of reaction higher to start trading into those areas and can trade those reactions higher. And so when I look at USDCHF from a daily perspective, we were still trading within this much larger sort of daily range in terms of our range low, range high. Yes, you can still mark the similar one to the daily now, but I think the very similar price action applies, or you can at least use the confluence of the dollar index with dollar pairs or dollar cross pairs. So weekly, we've come into a weekly fair value gap. It's a daily order block. You can see this is the last sort of correction before the last push on the weekly. So we're within these extreme lows or protected lows. And so naturally then from these areas, again, expecting push to the upside, whether that's just to internal range liquidity before we continue lower, or to continue higher to these points here. What is interesting on USDCHF and why I really like it is we swept through the 20-day low as well as then this 40-day low. and we've just continued coming so much lower. The 60-day low is right there, and we've come so close to it. More often than not, we end up sweeping that before we come higher. So I think because we're trading so close to it and it's such a significant area, and sweeping below that and sweeping back above won't invalidate this bias. So it's reasonably you can reasonably assume that we will sweep below that before we come higher. And so I think that will assist with patience in this higher time frame area where I'm looking for obviously the longs, but understanding that there's a lot of potential to come low, and it's not much lower. This is the low here. This can be achieved, even today. So if we do start to get some sort of correction higher, we sweep that high, then we can start taking sells in that region, and we could just sell off straight lower here and reach it. But then obviously, if we do get that, there's obviously the potential to short into that area. But then once we do get there, and we tap into that liquidity, that initial reaction could also provide further setups. But we'll obviously want a bit of confirmation before that, either some sort of establishment of a trend, or if setups or if the criteria is met to take more aggressive entry, we'll take it. But I think there's just so many ways you could play USDCHF this week. And hence I just wanted to highlight it. And just touch on some interesting points from the daily, from the dollar index, as well. So yeah, if you have that on watch, keep an eye out for that. But I'll keep you updated on my Instagram as well. Profitable week to you all. And remember that consistency is the choice you make when you start doing the things you should be doing day in and day out.